Beneath the rushing waters of the Mississippi River lies a hidden catastrophe, one that nearly wiped out an entire city. The Eastman Tunnel, an ambitious 19th century engineering project, was meant to fuel industry and prosperity. Instead, it almost destroyed St. Anthony Falls and threatened Minneapolis's economic future. In 1869, as workers dug a massive tunnel beneath the river, they unknowingly set the stage for this disaster. A sudden collapse sent torrents of water rushing into the underground passage, eroding the riverbed and putting the entire city's foundation at risk. In a desperate battle against nature, residents scrambled to prevent St. Anthony Falls from disappearing completely. So, how did this forgotten disaster reshape the city? What engineering breakthroughs saved it? And could remnants of the tunnel still be lurking beneath the surface? Stay tuned to find out as we discover the rise and fall of the Eastman Tunnel. I'm your host Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. The collapse of the Eastman Tunnel signaled a new era in a region that had already undergone generations of development. But to understand that point in time, we must go back much further. Before colonization in the New World, the Metawakan Dakota occupied much of St. Anthony Falls, proclaiming the site to be sacred, perhaps further testifying how significant the falls were to them. The group's name for the Mississippi River itself translates roughly into River of the Falls. More specifically, the natives inhabited Nicollet Island. Here, they crafted their ability to fish, collect tree sap, and trade with other tribes. Though things were soon destined to change with the European discovery of the Americas. In 1680, the first Europeans saw the falls when Father Louis Hennepin arrived in the region. Hennepin, a Catholic friar, traveled to New France as a missionary and named the falls Chutes de Saint Antoine, or the Falls of St. Anthony in English, documenting the journey in his published journal. After the land sovereignty changed several times, the Americans acquired ownership of the falls around the early 1800s. By 1817, American Major Stephen Harriman Long commanded a military expansion up the Mississippi River towards the falls. Upon reaching their destination, Fort Snelling was established in 1820 to prevent potential conflicts with local Native American tribes. Long described the site of the falls as, quote, the most interesting and magnificent of any I had ever witnessed before. Soon, the beauty of the location spread throughout the Americas, turning them into a local attraction of sorts. And perhaps this is why Franklin Steele made his first private land claim near the falls in 1838. And a decade later, the 11th President of the United States, James K. Polk, approved the claims, allowing Steele to construct a dam to block the eastern channel above the falls. Alongside this development, Steele launched his sawmill enterprise on September 1st, 1848, and pine sawing began around the Crow Wing River. The lumber collected from these efforts was sold to nearby settlers, who used it to construct new buildings and facilitate the town's growth. And believe it or not, some elements of the original wooden town can still be seen today. For example, there's the house of Mr. Erode Godfrey, which was built in 1848, and it is the oldest known home in the Twin Cities and the second oldest structure in the entire area. Thus, as more was built and settled, St. Anthony was ultimately incorporated by the year of 1855. Another dam was constructed through the falls, creating the water's iconic V-shape, in turn creating the image for the towns that would grow alongside it. By 1858, Steele and a group of New York financiers had established the St. Anthony Falls Water Power Company, which was a major regional development. By the time the Civil War ended and its associated economic issues stabilized, the fall's water power became intrinsically tied to the town's growth. It was harnessed for industries such as local textile, wood, and paper. Industries continued to grow as the number of settlers increased, and the reputation for St. Anthony Falls began to spread. Landowners William W. Eastman and John L. Merriam sought to construct a channel away from St. Anthony Falls to provide water power for businesses on Nicollet Island. By contributing water power to the island's industries, lumber and milling endeavors would grow substantially. So by 1868, work began on digging the 2,500-foot tunnel underneath the falls, Hennepin Island, the riverbed, and Nicollet Island. This conquest was to be called the Eastman Tunnel, also known as Hennepin Island Tunnel, named after the land on which it would travel beneath. They excavated the soft sandstone under the riverbed limestone for about a year, albeit with little caution. By October 5th, 1869, water from the project began leaking into the river as 80% of the proposed tunnel had already been dug. Eventually, and rather dramatically I might add, water burst through the weak limestone, causing parts of Hennepin Island itself to cave in. The ground that supported the falls also gave way, events which resulted in rumors spreading across the town that the foundations of every building might soon vanish into the tunnel beneath it. However, the town was not going to let that happen. Hundreds of volunteers gathered at the waterway, blocking the tunnel's openings with rocks and timber. Settlements were swept away as if they were nothing. So, long-term, constructing a dam was perhaps the most apparent solution. It seemed appropriate, but ultimately provided futile due to the spring floods of 1870. This second disaster added insult to injury, as several mills and a wheat storehouse were uprooted and swept into the river. At that time, many residents filed lawsuits against local lawmakers, insisting that no tax money could be used for the city's failures or the construction of the tunnel. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers finally intervened, despite low hope. Even so, by 1878, the Corps completed construction of a concrete dike above the falls and Hennepin Island. The tunnel extended from the limestone cap falls across the channel's length, effectively sealing it and preventing further bypass channels. This cautious approach seemed necessary, especially given the risk highlighted by past floods. Therefore, the most pressing issue was resolved. However, another risk needed to be addressed: the residents' fear of further disaster. St. Anthony Falls was eroding and moving upriver each year. Its limestone cap was being torn away, pushing it back further. If the sandstone were to be exposed underneath, the falls would completely disintegrate into ineffective rapids. Now, to a degree, this is nature's process, but the town's awareness of this unavoidable issue led it to incorporate additional precautions. In 1880, the Corps of Engineers constructed a timber apron and 2 additional dams to prevent further erosion of the limestone cap. The federal government covered about 2/3 of the cost for these engineering marvels, while the cities contributed around 1/3. The total expenditure was approximately $949,500 of worthwhile investment to save an entire town. The first half of the 20th century passed uneventfully for this riverside community, until yet another flood destroyed the sturdy wooden apron in 1952. With their advanced understanding of 20th century engineering, the twin cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis quickly built a concrete apron that still stands to this very day. Further improvements throughout the rest of the 20th century included the addition of more dams and locks designed to enhance navigation of the Mississippi River, but also to protect those who live in its vicinity. Now, the locals remember these disasters. It's still at the forefront of everyone's mind. And with that, St. Anthony Falls continues to be a very active area, making maintenance a regular necessity. The Eastman Tunnel is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places as a contributing resource to the St. Anthony Falls Historic District. This designation signifies that the site lends a sense of history to the surrounding area. Its narrative begins tragically, culminates in an awe-inspiring solution, providing a compelling reason to appreciate the site. The site of the Eastman Tunnel collapse remains active in various ways, I might add, with ongoing operations at the water power plant and Hennepin Island. The iconic Stone Arch Bridge also offers a stunning view of the surrounding area and Minneapolis. Apparently, portions of the tunnel remain hidden below ground, though nobody has accessed them since the day they were sealed off. With that in mind, I have a question for those of you from St. Anthony Falls. What relics of the past still lie beneath the surface there? Let me know in the comment section below, and we can continue our discussion there. Otherwise, I thank you all for subscribing and watching. Until next time, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.